Hello folks, today we're going to be looking at the 5 manipulation tactics of the narcissist. The first manipulation tactic is love. It doesn't matter what the context is. The narcissist will use love in some way. Now, if it's in a romantic context, you could see how they would use that very, very directly. Family member, very, very direct. Love, duty, loyalty, these kinds of concepts. In a religious or a cult context, it might be love of the leader or love of the religion or love of the system or love of a prophet that will be used against you. In employment, it's unlikely to be love of the employer that will be used against you unless the relationship has become romantic or sexual. Those boundaries have been broken. More likely, it will be love of the thing that you wish to do. So in employment context, what I've seen with clients that I've worked with is the employer functions as a kind of gatekeeper to a very, very rare industry that the target wants to gain access to. And so they leverage that love against the target to force them to do what they want. You will have all heard the term love bombing, but I think we can go a step back from love bombing and just come back to love and just start to think, how was my love used for leverage in this relationship? You might remember the book and the movie, The Green Mile. John Coffey, the main character, he's not the protagonist, but he's who the book is about, says famously in that, they kill them with their love. They kill them with their love. And he famously says he doesn't want to live in a world where people's love is leveraged against them so that evil can be done to them. He's heartbroken by the idea of living in a world where people would do that. So consider the way in which love, or the desire for love, or if you like it in its reverse, loneliness, is used to leverage people. A desire for fame, a desire for wealth, a desire for access, a love of music, a love of film, a love of whatever it is, could be used as leverage against the person. Love bombing, you've heard of. Love bombing is a term from cults. So what happens when somebody enters a cult is the cultists gather around them and tell them that they're amazing and that they're wonderful. Why? Because receiving all that love as an adult gets you addicted to the person or the cult or the movement or the leader that is offering you that love. You want more of it. You become addicted to it. It also has the powerful secondary effect, fortunately for the abusers, unfortunately for the targets, of eroding boundaries. So experiencing a lot of love unexpectedly from strangers, in a strange way, is a kind of a trauma for somebody. And it actually breaks down boundaries as you try to recalibrate to this completely novel and somewhat invasive experience. So even experiences that are pleasurable and feel good can still do damage to us. So think about the first tactic. It could have been love to gain leverage. Yes, love bombing is a part of that, but think about love. Think about the way in which love is used to manipulate you. Love of your children, love of your family, love of your faith, your religion, love of whatever is inside of that group, that system, whatever it is. Think about how love has been used against you to leverage you. The second manipulation of the narcissist, once they've hooked you with love, is to plunge you into the matrix that they live inside of. So the child narcissist, I propose, gives up on intimacy and vulnerability and actual authentic feelings because they're being raised in such a hideously painful environment, and they choose blue pill. They choose a life of fantasy and grandiose delusion. Once they've hooked you with your love for them, love for a thing that they can give you access to, they can leverage you when you're hooked, and they can push you into the matrix with them. They can push you into the dream right alongside them. Once you've taken the bait and you're on the hook, you're then not in this reality. You join them in giving up your authentic ability to distinguish fact from fiction, your authentic ability to, in a vulnerable, open way, spontaneously experience reality as is, and you become, slowly over time, just like them, a rigid follower of the fantasy. You see, the thing is, if we remain stuck in fantasy, we're not open to the new, because the new is always in reality. Would you agree? This is reality, this is fantasy. Fantasy is always old. In order to create a fantasy, I have to use previous experience. So what I'm proposing is that the narcissist is kind of like a dusty old vampire that sleeps in a coffin, because that represents the past and death. They're very, very old. They've lived through the centuries. They are history. They are established culture. They are the past. They are death. When you interact with them, you become more death-like with them. The dream that they offer is a sort of small death, is a sort of a mini death. And we lose the capacity for spontaneity. This is one of the reasons why, when we need to move on after a narcissistically abusive relationship, if we've joined them for a period of time inside of their blue pill dream, we become stiff like them. We become like them. We aren't the same. We don't become narcissists, but we become narcissistic. So we're now in blue pill. We're now in fantasy mode too. And it becomes hard for us, because the muscles have atrophied, to be spontaneous and authentic and open to new experiences. And this makes it very difficult to move on, because in order to move on from the past, you must embrace the new. But narcissistically abusive relationships keep us very, very past focused. It's a kind of a timeline trauma. It's a timeline trauma that keeps you looking backwards. It keeps you looking into the past, in many ways addicted to the past. As you'll know, if you've tried to break up from a narcissist, you keep looking back to what it was like with them. And your memories, your highly traumatized, highly emotionally charged, highly magnetized, dramatic memories with them, have a pull over you that nothing in your present does. So you remain stuck in the past, and you're no longer open to the new, which means you can't heal and move on, which means you remain stuck. If you do want to learn how to heal and move on properly, you have to get over this effect. This is a kind of possession. That means the narcissist has their voice inside of you, and to a degree, they have possessed you. So we have a course. It's called Breaking the Narcissistic Possession. It's available from this link below, and that will help you. If you do the course, which is not an easy course, and it takes time, and you commit to it, it will help you to get out of this dream and get out of this timeline-based trauma, so that you can start moving forward into the future again. It reduces their significance as well. So the first two manipulations of the narcissist are to use love as a leverage against you. A subtype of that is love bombing. They're then going to hook you in and pull you into the dream with them. The third manipulation that you are all aware of after you've got the hook and you're pulled into the dream, everybody talks about this, is gaslighting. Why is gaslighting necessary? What is gaslighting? Gaslighting comes from, people say it's a film. It's actually two films that for some reason was reshot like 4 years apart from each other, called Gaslight, in which it's a good movie. One of them is a good movie. Can't remember which one. It's good. A very nasty man is abusing his wife and driving her insane slowly by turning the gas lights in the house up and down. And then when she says, have you been turning the lights up and up? He would say, no, that's just inside of your imagination. In modern parlance, people have come to believe that gaslighting means lying. It doesn't. Gaslighting is not synonymous with lying. Gaslighting requires that you lie, but it is not lying. Gaslighting, if we want to be specific, is affecting the target's perception of reality through lying. So it's a very specific type of lie. If the lie doesn't cause the target to wonder whether they've gone mad, it's not gaslighting. You have to lie in a way that erodes the target's capacity to tell the difference between reality and fantasy. Why do we gaslight? I nearly said. This is like a video for narcissists. Hey, welcome narcissists. Why do we gaslight? Let's talk about abusing our victims. Why is there gaslighting? Because the narcissist will notice the victim begin to wake up. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody in an induced coma. Unfortunately, one of my friends was in a car crash about 15 years ago, and I saw him in an induced coma. In the movies, when people are put into an induced coma, they're just like peacefully sleeping, and there's just like white sheets and melodic music. It's a little bit sad. However, that wasn't my experience of what an induced coma looked like. It looked like my mate was continuously trying to wake up. So he would hear our voices, and he would have micro expressions across his face, and he would try to get up. So they'd kept him in a state where he could not wake up for his own good, but that he could still sort of respond to noises in the environment. Horrifying, Horrifying experience. Medically necessary. I don't doubt it. I don't deny it. When you see, as the abuser, that your target is waking up from the dream, they become restless. The eyes are beginning to flutter open. You have to gaslight them to push them back down into the dream. Because the dream ain't that good. This blue pill reality that is created for them by the abuser, it ain't that good. It ain't that strong. They start to realize that they're on a movie set. They start to realize that the film they're trying to live, it's not very well written, because the narcissist is an impressionable child. They've never really grown from childhood. So a lot of their perceptions, a lot of their ways of analyzing the world lack depth, and they lack emotional authenticity. They lack vulnerability. They have a very superficial and cold and flat and one-dimensional flavor to them. If you have a smart target, they'll be like, hey, this ain't right. They start to wake up. You gaslight them, erode their sense of self, erode their boundaries, push them back down, get them back sleeping again. So gaslighting is there to affect the target's perception of reality. It is lying, but it's a lying that must make them doubt their sanity. Why do we do this? Why do narcissists do this? They do this to stop people, to stop the target from waking up from the dream. Another manipulation of the narcissist will be reversal. As you're probably aware, that in the myth of Narcissus, he falls in love. In Ovid's version, he sees himself. He doesn't know that it's him. He just sees a beauty because he is beautiful. He's a beautiful young Greek boy, a hunter, and he sees himself. He's not interested in anybody else. But when he sees himself, he thinks, who is that handsome fellow? And he cannot tear his eyes away from his own reflected gaze. And he remains locked and trapped there, only staring into the pool and only seeing himself. It's a perfect myth for the depravity of an excessive vanity and falling into the narcissistic delusion, where you become the center of the world and then you can no longer see anything else. Nothing else exists. There's only you. Bits and pieces of reality come in through a glass darkly. You can see them reflected in the pool, but it is your face that dominates the pool. It is your image that is predominantly in your consciousness. So reversal is that mirror effect. So they live through the looking glass. They live through a mirror, and they will use this mirror as a weapon against you, as much as they use it on themselves. They use it against their own conscience. They use it against their own flagging, atrophied, authentic feelings. If they do come back up, they can kill it using this. Anything that they have done, they will accuse you of. Anything that you can bring to them and say, look, I absolutely have evidence that you've done the terrible thing that I said you did, that you said you didn't do. They'll say, I didn't do it. Here's evidence that you did do it. Okay, I did do it, but I did it because you made me do it. That's the level of insanity and derangement that you're dealing with. So one of their classic manipulations will be to turn everything around and make it all your fault. And this leads into the fifth and final manipulation that I want to talk about today, that is so dangerous because of the impact it has on your ability to leave, is shaming and guilting. Shaming and guilting are very, very powerfully destructive feelings for a human being to be burdened with. If I can burden you with shame and I can burden you with guilt, I can effectively silence you on any topic and can control you and manipulate you into doing anything. Guilt and shame, they're like, if I was you're a slave master, you have a stick and a whip. And on the stick is written guilt, and on the whip is written shame. And as soon as those slaves start rising up, you just start beating them. Shame, guilt, shame, guilt, shame, guilt. They will submit. They will go back down again. You can see this in politics. You can see this in the broader culture wars that we're going through at the moment. Guilt and shame are powerful weapons, powerful weapons against the human psyche when submission is the goal. If you want to get people to submit, use guilt and shame. So when they use reversal on you, it's often to guilt and shame you. Why does this make it difficult to leave? Well, number one, if you're full of guilt and shame and you want relief from that guilt and shame, the only relief that you'll find inside of the narcissistic relationship is to go back to sleep, is to go back into the dream that they created. So you then have to go into the fantasy that they've created for you. You must submit to their coordinates, who they are, who you are in the fantasy, not the reality, who they are in their script, in the film that they're directing, writing, and starring in, who you are, and the nature of your relationship. When you don't submit to that, gaslighting, reversal, guilting and shaming, everything to get you to go back to sleep, to submit and go back into the dream. And the only relief from pain you'll find is in the dream. When you want to leave, it won't be fear that brings you back. It won't be hatred or anger that brings you back. It will be guilt. You will feel guilty because they will do everything they can to bring you back into the dream where the vision of themselves that they have is vulnerable and childlike. They wouldn't do that. They would never. They didn't mean, oh no, don't leave me the way my mummy and daddy did. And then they'll present themselves as a child and hit you with every fathering instinct or mothering instinct that you have in your DNA. And what will stop you from leaving is the guilt that will breed shame. And the only thing that can prevent the guilt, you'll have all these weird ideas that is coming from their possession of your mind, their colonization of your mind, that if you leave them, you're abandoning a child to die. And then you'll have all these weird dramatic fantasies about them being homeless and giving handjobs under the bridge for small change and crack. So these are the 5 manipulation tactics of a narcissist. If you would like to leave a narcissist, if you would like to deal with a narcissist more effectively without becoming upset or drawn into their particular and peculiar psychodramas, you must break the narcissist's possession of your mind. Because at the moment, you will have their voice running inside of your head. Their introjects will be affecting the decisions that you're making. If you are interested in breaking the narcissistic possession, then the link for that course is available from below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for your attention. Please hit the like button, please subscribe here, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you.